Hey, Midgardians, I'm Clay.
And I'm Joe.
Welcome to That Midgard Show. This is a podcast where we discuss the Midgard campaign setting published by our friends at koboldpress.
Yep, and in this episode, we continue our series on the locations and lore found in Empire of the Ghouls and start the next adventure, the Blood Marriage.
Yeah, this chapter takes our party into the Northlands with a trip across the Nieder Straits into Huldramose and Nordheim, the first of the fallen dwarven holds. The Northlands are fantastic, and I look forward to discussing this chapter.
Yeah, for sure. And because there's so much to this campaign, we'll discuss each chapter over many episodes in our Empire of Ghouls series. We'll do our best to avoid spoilers by focusing on lore, locations, notable NPCs, but if we feel like we're treading into that spoiler land, we will let you know.
And we have a favor. If you like what we're doing on That Midgard Show, please give our episode a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel on YouTube, or rate and review us on your favorite podcasting platform. Doing so really helps others find the show. Now, since we concluded the Holy Robes of Sister Adeline, boy, a lot has been going on with me and probably you, Joe. So now that things have settled down, we can resume our regular production schedule. So what I've been up to? Well, I've had a career change. My family and I have moved to the Pacific Northwest. We've been unpacking and finding a place for all of our stuff. But on the D&D front, my group restarted our Southlands campaign this month. And my other group restarted our Curse of Strahd Midgard campaign in December. So I'm also doing a lot more of Foundry VTT work for many third-party publishers. So the pattern is full, as they say in Top Gun. Joe, what have you been up to in the last few months?
Oh, man. Well, just work in general and life and family stuff has definitely been keeping me busy. But I've also, been doing a lot of the Foundry VTT work for a few different publishers. But I did get my campaign finally up and running again. We've been meeting, a couple of times now, and trying to really dig into our Midgard campaign. My players are loving it. They're in Zobak. We ran through Everyone Lies, and now they're level 2, and we're working on a little homebrew adventure that I wrote, which I shared with you. But so far so good, man. It's been a blast. Everybody's having a good time. I've been digging into a lot of homebrew rules and stuff too. I've just been kind of playing with 5e a bit and enjoying some tweaks to the system. I've been using some stuff from TOV as well, some of the monsters and the some of the just some of the new mechanics from TOV that I really like. I've just been inserting into the game. Everybody's having a good time with it.
So, Joe, we're finally heading into the Northlands. And what's so cool about this campaign, Empire of the Ghouls, is that it's kind of a crawl around Midgard. It's not just takes place all in the underground. Before we set sail, our heroes have to return to Jost for some rest, recuperation, and probably to resupply from their previous adventure, the Holy Robes of Sister Adeline, which we discussed thoroughly in episodes 13 through 18. So you can check them out on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. So after the hook is set in the early part of the chapter, our heroes will find themselves on a ship that takes them northeast across the Nieder Straits to the Reaver's Cave in the Wolfheim.
Yeah, so the characters are going to board this old but well-maintained Nar and are stocked for the journey. We have actually a picture of a Nar up now to give you a context of what this looks like. And looking at Wikipedia, basically a Nar is this Norse merchant ship used by the Vikings for long sea voyages through the Viking expansion. The Nar is a cargo ship. The hull's a little wider and deeper and shorter than a long ship, and it could take more cargo. It could be operated by smaller crews, and it was primarily used to transport trading goods like walrus ivory, wool, timber, wheat, furs, pelts, armor, slaves, honey, weapons, anything they really needed. It was also used to supply food, drink, weapons, and armor to all the warriors and traders along the journey. The Vikings went all over the place. So there's not much written about the Nieder Straits in the material, but we have a good analogy in our world, which is the North Sea. So Norway and Denmark border the North Sea, and to the east you have Scotland and England, to the west, and then Germany and the Netherlands and Belgium and France to the south. So the North Sea is known for like kind of strong, unpredictable currents caused by these prevailing westerly winds in the region. And the North Sea also experiences frequent storms, especially in the winter, which can lead to some significant and very powerful waves. In Midgard, what is written about the Nida Straits sounds similar to the North Sea. So think of the Straits as being this well-traveled by commercial ships and a significant source of trade, but the Straits are kind of fraught with danger and mystery as well. The ship our heroes board sets sail toward the north at the next incoming tide, and the rowers take shifts to add a bit of speed to their progress, as needed. But they get ready for a perilous journey.
Yeah, and this is where it's easy for GMs to hand wave the trip across the straits. It can be challenging to run sea-going adventures, mainly if you have not done much of it. I found them very limited because of the space on the ship, particularly a smaller vessel like a Nar. So typically in a sea-going adventure, you are attacked by an opponent from the sea or air, and unless you can fly or breathe underwater, that can be very limiting. So hand-waving the ocean travel may be the best option if you just want to get on with the adventure. However, as you noticed in our prior episodes, I'm a big proponent of doing something meaningful in travel encounters. There's more to do in a boat other than fight something, although a good fight is always fun. So there are some random encounters in Empire of the Ghouls that are very good and can be used to damage the boat or take out a crew member or two. But I like the last option suggested in the table, which is a Reaver warband in a longship attacks our hero's ship. And so that encounter is a great way to introduce your party to the Reavers or even Trollkins, or perhaps foreshadow future encounters or NPCs later in the chapter. Also, on the koboldpress blog, there's a big roll table of 40 additional sea encounters. It's more comprehensive than the one in the campaign, and we will include a link in our show notes below. But be careful with generic random encounters written outside of the campaign, because they may not be a good thematic fit to your adventure or the location. And I do have a cautionary tale. This is something I've learned, as a GM. Random encounters are great when you need something quick, but in your campaign planning, random encounters should not be random, but a prompt for an encounter that you develop out a bit, that you keep in your back pocket when your players do something unexpected. But that's my opinion, and you're welcome to tell me in the comments if I'm wrong and why. But if you want a more comprehensive encounter, there's also a pretty cool adventure from Prepared 2 and Prepared Extended Edition called Neither by Sail or Oar, which can be easily adapted for the Nida Straits. I ran this adventure. It was a lot of fun. I will have to warn you, I'm going to spoil the crap out of this adventure, so if you're a player, you may want to skip to the next chapter of this podcast. So here we go. To run this adventure in the Nida Straits, all you need to do is remove the statue cargo from the ship your heroes are on and change the opposing crew to be all undead. The captain is already undead. She's effects from Tome of Beasts 1, and she could be a ghost knight under the command of Admiral Ungar. This is a submersible ship, and think of it as a new weapon developed by the Ghost Knights and used to pursue the PCs, because by now our heroes should be known by the primary antagonists in the campaign. So I think a submersible ship is a perfect vehicle for an undead crew in a medieval time who do not need light, air, or food. And how the ship works is left to your creativity, but is a beautiful twist to the adventure. So give it a go.
Yeah, I really like that one. I love the idea of the whole submersible ship. It kind of gives me almost like the Pirates of the Caribbean vibe. But it could be a cool encounter. We've talked about the Ghost Knights and all this stuff. So this whole undead submersible ship crew thing, that would be a pretty unique encounter. I got an idea as well for this. So we talked about not maybe having combat, because combat on ships, especially small ships, is tough. So if you want something a little bit more role play that can tie into the story, what you can do, like interact with the crew in some other ways through, let's say, a tavern game. There's a good one in Neither by Sail or Oar called Peril in the Deep, which seems to be a variation of the game Quarters that we've all played back in college in the frat houses and the dorms and stuff, right? Another idea for an encounter at sea, though, could be a ship adrift. the people on the ship are really just stranded and they need your help. If you can convince the captain to help them, and through doing so, your captain or your ship was going to warn you that's going to delay your arrival because you would have to hitch up and tow them and stuff like that. However, doing so could earn you their favor. And later on, when your party needs transport from Wolfheim, due to the Osprey being no longer available, which could happen, the captain of the damaged ship, which maybe is now repaired, could offer to bring you back across the strait for free. So they would kind of be in debt to you. You'd run into them, and then he could offer, a little bit of help. So a little bit of role play opportunity there, something to do, and then kind of has a little bit of payoff later on down the line in the story.
Scare the crap out of your PCs, where a crew member gets eaten or one of your party almost gets pulled off the ship. It's a lot of fun, and don't lose this opportunity by hand waving. But again, if time is of the essence for you, or if your players get bored with long, drawn-out travel encounters, hand wave it. It's cool. Nobody's going to know, and you're certainly not going to break the game.
Absolutely. You can do a quick little monologue about it, throw a cool graphic up on your TV and play some cool music and narrate through it and then move on, right? In under a minute, and still capture the feeling of an epic voyage. But, the goal here is to get to the Northlands. And we haven't really got to talk much about the Northlands yet on this podcast. And it's a really cool area. It was actually one of the earlier things developed by koboldpress back in the day after the Zobek and Crossroads region came out. The Northlands is one of the other areas they developed. And the North is home to this diverse range of races beyond just the Dwarven Reavers and all the human clans and stuff. One major one there is that the giants who reside in Jotunheim are the most well-known inhabitants of the region. They claim that Jotunheim is the last remnant of a much larger land that was destroyed by the gods soon after the First War, when the Aesir and the Vanir united to defeat their dreams of glory. Despite their size, strength, and hatred of the gods of Asgard, daily life in Jotunheim is similar to that of the other areas of the North. However, the number of giants has been increasing, and there is evidence of their destructive nature, with the ruins of isolated farmsteads bearing witness to their rampages. The ironworking thirster giants have been forging weapons at an unprecedented pace in service of their kind. This has led some to predict the coming of Fimbulwinter, and smiths work around the clock to arm those capable of fighting. As a result, grain stores are now being guarded closely in preparation for invasion and the impending harsh winter. An offshoot of the giant race, trolls and trollkin are also widespread, with a whole region named after them, Trollheim. In the oldest dialect of the northern tongue, troll means both supernatural evil and something difficult to put an end to, which I love. A phrase that encapsulates people's views of them. Despite the reputation, the Trollkin of Trollheim are actually more sophisticated than their southern kin. Living in crude halls and adopting the shared customs of the North, they are known for their monstrous violence and their willingness to resort to curses and black magic for a price. Trollkin raids often cause significant harm to the North's isolated villages and farmsteads. Although some victims can buy off their attackers with a tribute, others are left with tales of broken bones and shattered timbers where their homes once stood. Trollkin is also a playable race in Midgard and can be found in the Midgard Heroes Handbook. And actually, one of my players plays one. So they're a cool race. I feel like the Trollkin kind of take the place of half-orcs in Midgard. You also have fey creatures, right? They're widespread throughout the Northlands, from Bjornreich to the shores of the Hamu Hills, and as far north as anyone has dared to venture. A few stretches of woods, lakes, rivers, or streams are without a resident fairy creature or a host of them. Certain types of fae are actually unique to the North, like ice maidens wandering the high frozen places, some bands of Frashar to do their bidding. Hags lurk in the cold bogs, hatching vile plots against the innocent, and rum gremlins wreak havoc along the piers and docks, or from hidden burrows beneath mead halls. Travelers are also warned to learn how to pay their respect or avoid the endless hazards and entanglements one risks when dealing with these fey creatures. So, North is an interesting place.
But then there's the dwarves, and a lot of the dwarves are centered in a couple of countries. One of them relevant to this adventure is the Wolfheim. The Wolfheim is a dwarf hold in a rugged and isolated area near Huldramose and Trollheim. Other races would see settling in this location as a suicidal mistake, but the dwarves of Wolfheim see it as a worthy challenge. The dwarves of Wolfheim are prideful, bold, and highly traditional. They hold on to the old Reaven ways more fiercely than any other dwarven clan. The Reavers of Wolfheim are constantly feuding and raiding, but their wrath is mainly directed toward the nearby trolls and giants. They also venture south across the Nieder Straits to claim tribute or seize fresh thralls or slaves. Thralls and slaves are the same word. And they seize them to work their mines and valley holdings. Wolfheim is referred to a dwarf hold, which is their word for country. And they don't have any farms. Instead, their thralls or slaves must hunt or care for reindeer herds to provide meat for their masters. However, they are often attacked by wolves and wargs during the winter. And to make matters worse, thralls are not allowed to kill wolves, even in self-defense, because of an old agreement between the dwarves and the local winter wards, who act as guards and scouts. The younger dwarves even breed wolves to protect their reindeer and caribou herds. Now, the Wolfheim is famous for its wild winter celebrations where people drink enormous barrels of ale in a single night. And this is also an opportunity for an adventure. Additionally, the Forge priests showcase their fire magic, and the one-eyed priests of Wotan display their rune magic. The Wolfheim Reavers go on raids to plunder or trade for grain and hops, and due to their harsh living conditions and their intolerance towards the views of most of their moderate kin, Wolfheim has become a symbol of the traditionalist Reaver dwarves. So this type of mentality or culture attracts young dwarves who wish to embrace the fearsome Reaver culture and elders who still dream of the times when dwarves ruled the earth. So from the Reaver's Cave in the south, which is one of the destinations of our heroes, they prepare their boats to make offerings for glorious conquests across the straits. So, with the establishment of the new Jarldom called the Wolfmark, which is south across the Nieder Straits, this area provides a new destination for those who seek the glory of the old ways. And this area was part of Krakovar before the vampire invasion, which we discussed in episode 17. So, what a better way to prove one's valor than to wage war against a kingdom of undead while carving out a bigger and bigger piece of what was once a prosperous human kingdom. The chaos in the surrounding regions gives opportunities to the Reavers of Wolfheim, and some of them are now considering leading their thralls to reoccupy and cultivate the lands south of the ruins of Nordheim, while avoiding those ruins, of course. If successful, the new grazing grounds would bring in trade with the Wolfmark. A small settlement has been established in anticipation of the endeavor finding approval, and so far, there has only been one minor setback. And we'll talk more about Nordheim in the next episode. Our heroes land in the Northlands at the Reaver's Cave, which is a location probably on a fjord from where Reavers launch their raids. As you set sail into the fjord, you're welcomed by the sight of towering rocky cliffs pounded by waves. And at the northernmost end of the fjord, you'll find the Reaver's Cave, which is guarded by a tall inlet protected by precarious dark gray stone cliffs. And the rest is really left up to your own creativity because there's not a lot written about the Reaver's Cave.
Yeah, but that's a good opportunity again to use some cool images and stuff like that. Play some epic music and describe that coming into the fjords. I feel like that's one of those kind of epic moments that precursors what's to come.
And koboldpress, we've mentioned this before, always leaves holes in the lore. There's reasons for that. One, it would triple the size of the book if they included something on everything. And B, it's been Wolfgang's philosophy to always leave something to the GM to add, to Midgard.
So we're going to get into what happens at Reaver's Cave because we don't want any spoilers there. But after leaving Reaver's Cave, we have to head to Hudramose. So once our heroes complete their task at the cave, they return to the Osprey for a 4-day ocean trip from Wolfmark Peninsula to Huldramose. Located in a lowland between two wide rivers that frequently flood, the swampy and soggy land of Hudramose is not ruled by a king, but by two elf-marked queens. Here, the old ways of the Vanir remain strong, and Fae are common. The people live in a bountiful but treacherous marshland. Punts and rowboats replace roads and horses. Few dwarves travel to Huldramose, since the infamies of their wars are well remembered. Huldramose is actually named for the Huldra, fierce female trollkins who think nothing of beating arrogant male warriors unconscious with their bare hands. Believe me, I love that, and we're using that in my campaign. Yeah. I'll get into that later. But the valor is bestowed by Wotan One Eye himself, for he gathered the first Valkyries from among the Huldra, and they still train mortal girls and women in the fighting arts. Those who doubt the fighting prowess of a band of shield maidens no longer do so after meeting the Huldra in battle. The central town of Huldramose is built on thick stilts like a collision of giant wooden spiders. Witches and face sorcerers are far more common than wizards and priests here. Snake handling is a familiar ritual, combined with hallucinogenic potions brewed from swamp serpent venom and necrotic herbs. The queens of Huldramose are Thorgard and Dark Urpa. They're both elf-marked sorcerers claiming descent from the vanished nobility of Thorn, which is an elven kingdom. It was like, I think, the fourth elven kingdom. It vanished about 1,000 years ago. So it's one of the old elven kingdoms. Each of them rules in turn, one at home while the other travels in search of adventure. Neither queen has a husband, although each takes heroes as lovers occasionally, and both have borne strong daughters to carry on the family line. The queens of Huldramose conceal the presence of a world tree sapling called the Two Queens Tree, said to be cut from the world tree the dwarves once attacked in Thorn. Few know of the tree outside the royal household, but its growth is swift, and soon it will be too tall to keep the secret of it in existence. So, I'm really digging this area. I mean, I'm a big fan of like the whole shield maiden thing, and that's actually going to even tie in with a little something over in Reaver's Cave. But I love the whole shield maiden thing. I love the Huldra. Like I said, since I actually have a female Trollkin barbarian in my D&D group. I told her like about those. She's like, her whole thing now is she aspires to go there and train to become one. So it is a cool area and a cool story going on there.
It's that inclusivity that really attracted me to Midgard in the first place, you know, and its diversity. And, you know, being a father of a daughter, you know, I always like to see, you know, females take a central role in storytelling, when for so long it's always been male heroes, and you know all the females wore chainmail bikinis and things like that. Right. You know, this is not, you know, reality in Midgard. The Huldra, you know, many of them are Trollkin. They will beat you senseless if you cross them or look at them in the wrong way or try to pick up on them or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, my D&D group, it's 4 females and 2 men. So they're all about this. So I'm anxious for them to eventually work their way up here and see this area.
Let's talk more about the Huldra. According to the lore, when Odin chose the first of his Valkyries, they were raised from the ranks of the Huldra. Still, sister-in-arms, the Huldra are some of the few mortals the Valkyries have dealings with, save for those souls they collect from the battlefield. Huldra are originally Trollkin, and the majority of their order remains so. Many girls and women travel from all across the world to Huldramose to be trained in the fighting arts by the Huldra, but they often return to their homeland with the knowledge they gain. On rare occasions, some non-Trollkin women stay behind to permanently join the order and train future generations of warrior women. So we go from the idea of female warriors to the world trees, you know, which is, you know, fairly central to Midgard. And as Joe mentioned earlier, the queens of Huldramose conceal the presence of a world tree sapling. Now, the first world tree, Yggdrasil, is the seat of wisdom and a connecting element between Midgard, Valhalla, and the other planes. Wotan and the northern gods hold the secrets of traveling its twisting path and evading its guardians. And Yggdrasil is ancient and perhaps sentient. Those who travel Yggdrasil between the worlds carry messages for the gods or bring omens and warnings from Wotan and Loki. The Druids and Elves agree that the Vanir Elves, or Freyr or Freya themselves, planted the first seeds of Yggdrasil, which became the world and its many places. Elven versions of the story say that Yggdrasil rests in the Summerlands, and its roots and branches extend to Midgard, the Hells, and elsewhere. Now, if you recall, the planet is a flat coin, and the Summerlands are said to be on the other side of the Summerlands, and there is no information whatsoever on that. So, if you want to take your party in the Summerlands, you're going to have to world build. But the Druids and the priests of Freyr and Freya claim Yggdrasil holds up Midgard, and its offshoots form sacred groves and forests worldwide. Now, the branches of Yggdrasil that enter Midgard manifest as world trees that connect Midgard to various realms, from the Elflands to the Plane of Spheres. Climbing a world tree means entering the planar highways, which might lead to Valhalla, the 11 Hells, or Ravatet. Only the elves, the ravenfolk, and Valkyries even pretend to understand the paths, though the strange Ratatosk, who are native to the Great Tree, act as guides, messengers, and guardians of its many planar worlds. The world tree displays roots as large as hills and trunks pushing miles into the sky. Each tree's bark is widely variable, with beach-smooth bark sections alternating with convoluted, flaking material layers. Their leaves are enormous, yet they rarely reach the ground when they fall, slipping through the worlds to Valhalla, Elfheim, or elsewhere. The known world trees of Midgard are all pilgrimage sites for followers of the northern gods, but they are revered almost everywhere they grow. Each such tree is a node of divine power and is a nematon, which is a sacred grove where no birds nest and no animals dig their burrows. Nematon is kind of a Celtic word of a sacred place. The leaves of the world tree constantly shiver and whisper, even when no winds stir the forest around them. Now, the Druids and Northlands pantheon priests find that their magic operates as if they were one level higher within the sacred grounds of a world tree, which is super cool. Now, there are several trees in Midgard. The known world trees include an enormous fir in Domovogrod, an unusual tree in Beldestan, a marsh cypress in the haunted lands of the giants, a mere sapling in Huldramose, and a thriving ravenfolk roost in Trollheim. Now, all that information about the trees are located in the Midgard Worldbook, and we'll include pages to those references in the show notes below. But not all world trees prosper or resist corruption. In fact, Varshava's tree did not survive the Darakul conquest of the city. And the gnomes of Nihheim have also created a terrible sproutling abomination, and a rotting world tree endures in the ruins of Thorn. Like I mentioned earlier, tons of material in the Midgard Worldbook, but there's also a write-up in Warlock Zine number 9, which covers some particular places and lore and a lot more on the Ratatosk as well.
And the world tree has always kind of fascinated me because this idea that there's the main one, right, on the other side of the world, on the bottom of the coin, and it's holding up everything, and its roots poking through into Midgard are, little sprouts of it. Even though these world trees in Midgard are probably go higher than you can see. They're like skyscrapers. Yet they are just tips of the root of the actual world tree. And you can climb them and go into other planes of existence. It's a neat concept.
I really dig the idea of a living tree being the route to other planes. I've got one character who is dying to go to the Hells, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get him there. But I do have some ideas, and I'm going to keep them to myself in case he listens to this podcast.
So there's this other mechanic in Empire called Grace Points. It's basically this variant of status points, but these Grace Points allow the characters to use their allies to affect a more favorable outcome in battle without the GM having to handle several allied NPCs. These points measure the friendship and fidelity the characters have earned. The characters collect Grace Points as a whole, not as individuals, though each character can earn the Grace Points for the group. The characters can earn no more than 1 Grace Point per activity, However, multiple characters participating in each activity increase the chance of the group earning the activity's grace points. So they'll do something, the group earns a grace point. What is nice is that the GM defines the criteria for awarding grace points. So for Empire of the Ghouls, there are 4 suggested ways to earn grace points while adventuring in Huldramose. I'm not going to tell you what they are to avoid spoilers, but when you read the book, you'll kind of see. So neat little system, kind of fun to play with. I think there's room to build on it and customize it and do some, come up with other ways of awarding these grace points as you play. But it is a cool system, and you can award them tokens or something to track it and have some fun with it.
It's a great mechanic. It's something that is rarely used. I like to use it because so often your party walks into a bar, you guys are complete strangers, new to the area, and all of a sudden this dude sitting at a bar just unloads a bunch of information to their PCs. And I think you need to make it a little harder. I think the players need to kind of earn the trust of those that reside in the area that they're visiting, and status points and grace points is a great way to kind of track that informally, and as a reminder to the GM that don't just gush out a bunch of lore. Make it a little harder for them to find information.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like, World of Warcraft where it's a reputation grind.
Right. So, we're getting back to the creature showcase. Joe, do you have anything good?
I do. We're talking swamps. So, I thought we'd go with the swamp creature today. So think about this. You find yourself on this long trek north through the swamps of Huldramose. It's cold and wet. Insects buzz around you, and you find yourself frequently slapping your neck as a mosquito lands on you. Snakes, lizards, and other swamp creatures abound in this harsh land. Swamps combined with the cold north, it makes for an extra unpleasant journey. So you set up camp and do what you can to stay dry, trying to dam off an area from the waters and gather wood and peat moss, and you light a fire. Your path going through the swamp, however, is quite noticeable as you're just trekking through and slashing through, and it's not easy to move through this land unnoticed. But as you sit around the fire, having a meager meal of a snake whose head you lopped off, you hear a noise. You look up and you see a face at the edge of the firelight with blue glowing eyes and these sharp, strange features in the shadows. Are they wearing some kind of strange hat? You stand with an uneasy feeling as your hand goes to your weapon. The face moves closer, and now a form can be seen. It's not a hat, but a hood of a giant snake-like creature with a face. Long tendrils whip around its head, and a cloud of insects buzz around it as it slithers closer. You have done damage to my swamp. Leave now or face the consequences. So, this is a swamp Naga. These creatures can be found in Tomobeast 2 on page 265. I like these. So they're lawful evil creatures if you want to know kind of the alignment of them here. But they consider themselves protectors of their swamp. They generally prefer to only fight if intruders do not leave or stop their destruction of the swamp. If you don't harm the swamp, they won't bother you. However, they can be easily angered, and damming up the water and burning peat and wood could be enough to set these guys off. So these are like a CR6 creature, average of 102 hit points, but they could top out up to 156 if you wanted to bump them up. They're strong and fast creatures with high strength, dex, and con scores. They have this cloud of insects that I mentioned that are all around them, and this will affect any creature that starts its turn within 5 feet of the Naga. And this is going to force them to make a DC 14 con save. If they fail, they're going to take 2d8 poison damage and suffer the poison condition for a full minute. If they pass that save, they still take half damage, no poison condition, right? But the Naga are also strong spellcasters with a full spell list of spells up to 4th level, including things like Blight, Hypnotic Pattern, Stinking Cloud, Blindness, Deafness, Hold Person, Sleep, Charm Person, several others, even some cantrips like Poison Spray. Beyond that, they have a pretty strong bite attack that deals both piercing and poison damage for a combined total of about 30 damage on average. They can also do this constrict ability, that will grapple on hit and restrain the target on hit. So that attack's going to do like about 14 bludgeoning damage, is like 3d6 plus 4. But then you're grappled and restrained. And when you're restrained, they're going to have advantage on those bite attacks moving forward and give you disadvantage on all your attacks. So I like this creature a lot because the combination of both the passive cloud of insects along with some good spells and it being so many that you feel like not so many spells that you feel overwhelmed, and then these 2 great melee attacks, it just works together. It's a fun monster to run without being overly complex. A creative DM could even convert some of those spells into abilities if they wanted to, in the style of like Tomo Beast 1 2023 version, like the newer one, or some of the newer, Wizards of the Coast monster books where they're taking spells out and spell slots out and making more of abilities. You could easily do that with a few of these abilities if you want and still have this fun, challenging encounter. But I think best of all with this creature, it's a roleplay opportunity. You could talk your way out of this. This is always a great lesson for players that not every encounter has to be a combat, right? Like this creature, he's evil, but he's lawful evil, and all he's looking to do is protect his swamp. So I think a lot of players are going to see this thing and get scared and want to jump to attack, but that doesn't have to be the case. It is an intelligent creature that wants something, and if you give it what it wants, you could get out of it. A couple good persuasion checks or something like that, and you might have a good opportunity to award that experience without a combat.
And typically Nagas have been used in more jungle encounters. And that does not have to be the case. The swamps of Hudramose is a perfect location for these types of creatures.
Yeah. And I mean, they have an affinity to not only snakes, which obviously they do. So that's why I mentioned you're eating a snake, because that would probably make it mad. But they also have an affinity with insects, and they're immune to poison damage and stuff like that. So that whole, almost like, I would give them maybe like a control over the insects, but they have this cloud. They can actually dismiss that cloud of insects off of them if they wanted to as like a bonus action. But it's just this neat concept of this swamp Naga. And I was like, man, that's cool. That'd be a fun encounter for this adventure.
Yeah. You can even add things like, swarms of centipedes or, some other critters that, the Naga are protection
friendly
of.
With. Yeah.
Friendly with.
Giant mosquitoes or something like that. Like there's some cool stuff you can throw in that combat if you need to bump it up a little bit and make it a little more, more than a single target combat. So what do you got for us?
I got something pretty cool. So let me set it up for you. The moon hangs low in the night sky, casting an eerie glow upon a desolate landscape. The air is thick with an unsettling stillness as you navigate the labyrinthine ruins of an ancient city. Torches flicker, casting elongated shadows on the moss-covered walls. The light revealing faded ruins and forgotten tales etched in the stone of the Northheim ruins. As the group presses forward, your eyes fall upon an object half buried beneath the layer of dust and rubble. Excitement ripples through you as a sudden breeze unearths a tattered parchment. A map, by the looks of it. Eager to uncover its secrets, you are tempted to rush forward to spread the map open to see what it reveals, your eyes widening in anticipation. Another sudden gust of wind sweeps through the ruins, causing the map to flutter erratically. You exchange uncertain glances with your companions as the parchment seems to take on a life of its own. Then, with a startling rip, the map splits open, revealing a grotesque transformation. The once innocuous map now bears the semblance of a fanged mouth and a malevolent face, its features twisted in the mockery of a grin. It's moving quickly towards your face. Gasps echo in the walls as the realization dawns upon you that you have unwittingly triggered the awakening of a mimic, a creature notorious for its deceitful nature. The adhesive that held the map together now oozes from its edges, a sticky trap threatening to ensnare you or any of your companions. Square for battle, let the fray begin. So, welcome to the treacherous realms where deception wears many faces. A particular breed of mimic, known as the Map Mimic from Tomo Beast 1, the 2023 edition, has evolved in the shadowy realms where danger lurks at every turn. So imagine a treasure map unfurling before your eyes, flapping as it's caught in a strong wind, only to reveal a sinister secret. a fang-mounted face that belies its true natures. Now, these deceptive creatures are born of the mimic spawn, their existence tied to the adhesive that not only ensnares unsuspecting prey, but harbors microscopic larvae within. They are often cannibalized by the voracious parent mimics. A few fortunate larvae escape this fate by hitching a ride on the clothing or equipment of those who manage to escape an encounter. Thus, the map mimics are born worm-like and cunning. Now, unlike their larger kin, these map mimics are smaller than a dinner plate, limiting their mimicry to objects of such dimensions. However, their ability to alter their form, assuming the shape, texture, and coloration of anything within their size range, makes them no less deadly. Their preferred guise is a parchment paper, displaying their path complete with landmarks in the form of a genuine map. Now, they cleverly conceal themselves within bottles or amidst the remains of a fallen adventurer, and these map mimics patiently bide their time. When an unsuspecting explorer chances upon them, the mimic's hunger is sated with a sudden attack, latching on the discoverer's face. However, if well fed, these deceptive creatures continue their charade, leading the adventurer on a treacherous journey back to their lair of their parent mimic. Beware of the beguiling allure of this seemingly harmless map, for in the realms of peril the map mimic awaits, ready to ensnare those who dare to seek the hidden treasures they seem to promise. Now, this is a tiny feature, and it fights just like the mimic. But this one goes for the face, which creeps me out. I still remember that scene from Alien when the facehugger erupts from that egg-like object and attaches to Kane's face while they're exploring a derelict alien ship. Now, despite being only 1/4 CR, I see it more as a sinister nuisance than a real threat to any of the PCs. It's harder to hit than its parent, the Mimic, having 14 AC of natural armor and a fly speed of 15 feet. Now, oddly, it can move faster on the ground than it can fly with a walking speed of 30 feet. It has a single pseudopod attack, but if it hits, the map Mimic attaches to the face of its target, blinding them. Now, they're easy to remove, but removing it costs the target an action, which is precious to any PC. Now, what is interesting about this creature is that the map Mimic automatically chronicles its route since it's left its parent Mimic in great detail. But the map it makes shows terrain features and landmarks of where it has been, but it doesn't show the names of those places. To the creative GM, the map Mimic could provide a clue to our heroes that may lead them to their next objective, although it may lead them to the nest of mimics as well. Now, the Mimic is a well-known monster in Dungeons & Dragons that typically takes the form of doors, chests, or other objects to attract adventurers. Mimics are imaginative and bizarre creatures that players rarely forget once they've encountered. This goes back to original D&D. The first appearance of a Mimic was in Gary Gygax's original Monster Manual in 1977. And it was then described as a creature that could not tolerate sunlight and could mimic the appearance of wood or stone. Now, despite numerous editions of the game, mimics remain one of the most recognizable and troublesome monsters. And I guarantee you, you'll never forget if you encounter one in your game. Now, while mimics are relatively safe for experienced adventurers, they can be a challenge for less experienced players who stumble upon them unexpectedly in the wild or in someone's basement. So, in fact, a campaign that I played in about a decade ago, we had a youngster with our group, new to D&D, and he was a young treasure-seeking player who almost lost their character to a swarm of mimics because he charged in without caution. And I think that may have been a teaching moment from the GM, to be a little bit more cautious because his character almost died.
Yeah, mimics will do that to you.
Yeah,
but I feel like fighting a mimic is a rite of passage for every D&D player. I mean, you got to do it. But this one intrigues me. One, as you said, like just the idea. First off, the comedy of this map mimic just going on the face, and the player probably scrambling around, and everybody trying to peel it off, and then the barbarian's like, "I'll take care of it," and smashes the player in the face with a hammer. I just feel like it would be a lot of fun. Then I'm sitting here thinking, this would be a great creature to upscale. Like, think about like you're in this castle, this abandoned castle, and you come into this war room, and there's this giant map laid out across the table. It's like 10 feet by 10 feet, right, map. And it turns out to be a map mimic. I mean, you could up its points, its damage, its movement, give it resistance to bludgeoning damage. Since it's flat, it's not like you're going to do a whole lot with bludgeoning, but make it vulnerable to slashing. I mean, it could be there's a lot you can do with this thing.
Yeah, what a great idea. I mean, you can combine the traits of a mimic with a rug of smothering, or some other creature.
Yes. Absolutely, that would be.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
Sounds like a monster submission for the next Toma Beast.
There we go. Well, if they do another one, I was also thinking earlier because when I was thinking of ideas for our crossing of the strait, there was an encounter that I did once where there was this ship adrift, and we got on the ship, and it turned out that the crew was all gone and dead. There was mimics all over this ship. Everything from like one of the crossbows to, furniture to a cannon to a table to the latrine were mimics. Wow. And we had to fight through all these mimics. So this would be another good one where you can throw a map mimic in the map room, maybe like upscale, like I said. But oh man, so much cool stuff you can do with mimics. They are fun.
That is an awesome idea.
Yeah. So that was a fun encounter, obviously. And if you wanted to, you could even make the whole ship the carnivorous ship from, I think it's Toma Beast 2 or Creature Codex. It's an entire ship that's a mimic, essentially.
Wow. Mimics are that rite of passage that you suggested, along with beholders and a dragon and a mind flayer.
Displacer beast. Displacer beast, gelatinous cube. There's a few just classic monsters everybody has to face at some point.
Oh, yeah. My daughter fought a gelatinous cube that drove her nuts because every time she escaped from it, it sucked her back in. And she was getting so frustrated that she just says, I'm bound and determined to kill this thing. And the entire party was unconscious. She was it. And she managed just out of sheer good rolling to defeat that creature, because I was running that monster. I was rolling like crap. She was rolling terrific, and she overcome the gelatinous cube, and that is one creature that she still remembers to this day fighting.
Oh, I bet. And gelatinous cube could be another good one to throw in the swamp. Just comes right up out of the swamp. It's like practically part of the swamp. You don't even notice it till you're stepping on it.
Yeah.
So. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. That was a good creature.
Yeah, for sure. So that's our show. I hope you enjoyed it. In our next episode, we visit the dwarven ruins of Nordheim and the Midnight Temple, which are the climax to this chapter. So, Joe, how can people reach you?
Well, we can always find me on YouTube at GM Toolbox. My channel hasn't been overly active right now because of just life in general, but we'll get there. Also on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and on the site formerly known as Twitter, now X, at GM_Toolbox. And of course, you can find me on the Midgard Adventures and koboldpress Discords at GM Toolbox there as well. How about you, Clay?
Yeah, same locations, but where I really lurk is the Midgard Adventures and the koboldpress Discords as well. And I'm at Clayton Thompson, one word, and that's Thompson without a P.
Yep, and we appreciate you guys bearing with us. We know it's been a while since an episode, but we are back. We're ready to do this on the regular again for you. So if you like the show, please click the like button, subscribe to our channel, spread the word about that Midgard show, let everybody know. We're also on all the major podcast platforms, so please subscribe, leave us a positive comment, give us a 5-star review, help us out. So that's it for today, everybody. And remember, as Wolfgang Barr says,
strip it for parts and make it your own. Thank you for joining us. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.